The Serpentes column. For reference, this group includes almost all the Serpentes, all the sons aside from Breaker, Cass, Quickly, and Tiny, plus Dylan, Jaspar, Chauncey, Olivenko, Leon, Gerald, Evan, Zelda, Felix, Varley, Anatoly, and Perrin. The Serpentes column makes it out of the underpass without any further issue. For those that are confused by the timeline, this is at least 12 to 24 hours earlier than the previous chapter, when the various groups in the depths met up. Dylan wants to leave a few folks behind, but for now they decide to press on a little further. He knows he is not being practical, or a good, clear-headed commander. He mostly knows this because Varley and Jaspar are happy to tell him so. He's thinking with his heart, acting out of fear for his comrades, not out of the best interests of the mission. Dylan does what he can to rise to the occasion, puts on a stoic face for the men, and leads the column down the road. They've entered a small Tarathian kingdom called Karim. It's no bigger than a large fief in Cadia, but it calls itself a kingdom, and the ruler calls himself a king. In name only, really. All the independent kingdoms this close to Tarathia proper are little more than vassal states. They pay tithes to the church, and their kingdoms primarily exist under the aegis of the Serpentes. They spend a few days trudging through the snowdrifts piled onto the land, eventually reaching Karim Keep, where Torthian is confident they will receive a great deal more hospitality than in, say, Kirkworth. After all, Kirkworth is large enough that it can defy the church, at least in small, reasonable ways, whereas Karim cannot. Karim Keep has a good-sized little trading town sprawling around a simple Mott and Bailey fort. Their company draws a lot of stares, especially the Serpentes, and, as expected, they are given a warm welcome at the keep. There aren't enough accommodations for all of them, nearly 100, to stay inside the keep, nor can the stables hold all their horses. But they are welcome to use the courtyard, and a few can enjoy the keep if they like. Torthian tells Steelshod and the sons to take the better quarters without hesitation. His men are accustomed to Spartan living conditions. Don't get me started on real-world culture-based idioms like Spartan, or I'll be here all day. And he feels Steelshod has already risen above and beyond the call of duty. They deserve a night inside, with warm rooms and servants. Dylan has the quarters assigned to Varley and the wounded. Leon is still unable to walk due to the massive damage he took from his fall. Gerald and Evan are both suffering moderate wounds from their fight with the strange ogre-like creatures. And of course, Jaspar is still recovering from a nasty stab wound in his abdomen. They meet Karim's king, a lean, good-looking man named Micah Enorius. Seasoned, but not yet old. Perhaps in his mid-40s. He has a Castelline nose, coarse, dark Tarathian hair, a strong jaw. Some of the best features of the mixed lineage that is common in the Midlands and Tarathia. King Micah welcomes them to his hall. He saw them coming a few hours earlier and had his people dip into their winter stockpiles. A modest feast is in preparation. Torthian, Jaspar, Dylan, and Varley are invited to meet with the king. As commander of the sons, Gwyneth was invited as well, but she just laughed and walked off to spend time with her lads. While they await dinner, they explain to King Micah what happened in Cadia, and the grave danger they believe Terbjornsson now poses to Nahash and the church. Micah listens intently, but privately Jaspar feels the king doesn't seem to really believe them. Or perhaps he doesn't feel the gravity of the situation the way they do. At several points he seems to find Torthian and Dylan's coarse behavior irritating. Towards the end of the meeting, Varley retires to rest. Torthian and Dylan excuse themselves to see to their men, and they freely admit that they are not the lordly sort. Torthian was a common beggar on the streets of Perinople before he became a Serpentis. Dylan, a freeman from Victoria, was never instilled proper deference for nobility. They apologize to the king if they have given offense, and suggest perhaps they should just eat with their men. King Micah agrees, suggests perhaps Jaspar and Varley can join him for dinner by themselves. Once they've both excused themselves, the king has a private chat with Jaspar. He suggests that Karim may be involved in some significant fighting soon, and he wonders if perhaps he could entice Steelshod to take a new contract with him. Jaspar says they would be happy to discuss it after they have finished helping the Serpentes. Micah points out that they've gotten the Serpentes to Tarathia now, haven't they? Isn't their contract concluded? He suggests that working with him could be very lucrative for an ambitious group of mercenaries. Jaspar agrees that they would love to work with him once they have concluded their business in Tarathia. The king concedes the point, dismisses Jaspar, tells him he looks forward to the feast. It should be ready in a few more hours. Jaspar retires to his new quarters to lie down for a bit. His wound is aching fiercely. He dozes off and wakes up to the sound of his chamber door opening. Evening has fallen, and only a bit of gloomy light streams in his windows. A shadowy figure stalks across the room, stands over his bed. Jaspar gropes around for anything he could use as a weapon. Finds nothing. Jaspar? Chauncey whispers. Jaspar heaves a sigh of relief. Yes, Chauncey? We need to talk, the nervous rogue stammers. Chauncey, it appears, has been busy. When they parted ways with Prudence, he says she took him aside and told him that with her and Yoren gone, it was up to him to step up, to be Steelshod's eyes and ears in the dark, to be vigilant, alert, and trust no one. When they arrived in Karim, he made himself scarce. He has wandered the halls, listened at doors, and peered through keyholes. His news is simple. Karim plans to betray them. How can you be sure? Jaspar asks. I have heard them, Chauncey whispers fiercely. He goes on to explain in painfully stammering detail that he discovered that part of the reason the keep's accommodations are so limited is because there are already a lot of people staying in the guest quarters, and a lot of people hiding in the stables. Soldiers. Several dozen knights, scores of men-at-arms, all massed in the back rooms, the stables, the kitchens, anywhere out of sight. It made him mighty suspicious, but the clincher was much more overt. He listened in on King Micah and one of his lords, the captain of the guard, discussing their plans openly. While Micah treats Steelshod's commanders to a feast in his private chambers, the rank and file will be eating outside, and that is when they will strike. I'd rolled the series of escalating stealth and observation checks for Chauncey as he scouted the keep, and the little guy was on fire. Yoren had mostly dismissed him as a second-rate stealth NPC, a sort of discount Prudence, but he did Yoren very proud that night. Jaspar tells Chauncey that they must move quickly and maintain utmost secrecy. Chauncey is to slip out of the keep, notify the others, so that when the attack comes outside, Steelshod and the Serpentes are ready. He tells Chauncey that when he is finished warning the others, he must return to the quarters and protect Steelshod's wounded. Leon, Gerald, and Evan. And Varley. They quietly slip over to Varley's room, inform Varley of the situation. Varley agrees he is too old and infirm to be of any use, and would just be a liability. Tell them I'm dead to the world asleep, he suggests. Old codgers like me often are. I'll wait here, with the wounded out of the way. Chauncey promises to sneak back inside and join them before the fighting begins, in case Micah has a soldier or two set to go execute the wounded. Jaspar is not going to stay with the wounded, however. His job is possibly even harder than that of the warriors, as he must go to dinner with King Micah and pretend all is well, so as not to arouse suspicion. Chauncey recently picked up Ghost, a hotshot-style tier that allows him advantage on a series of sneaking checks. He puts it to great use here, slipping in and out of the keep with ease. Felix and Zelda hear about the plan. They and the other Steelshod and Serpentes covertly prepare their weapons and ready themselves for the upcoming battle. Meanwhile, Jaspar attends King Micah in his private dining hall. The food is good, the music loud, and the dinner conversation is fraught with tension. Double meanings that are now all too obvious. Outside, once dinner is well underway, the attack begins on schedule. The walls of the keep line up with archers, and from the stables dozens of cavalry suddenly emerge. From the keep, a throng of men-at-arms. They attack the Serpentes and Steelshod without warning. That's okay, Chauncey was all the warning they needed. Olivenko and a couple of the Serpentes knights had positioned themselves near one wall, and now rush up to the battlements, cutting a quick and deadly swath through the archers that realize they're under attack a little too late. Olivenko is one-armed, but his steel dagger flashes in the moonlight. Months of sparring with Yoren has honed his skills fighting one-handed to, at least, a solid fraction of what they once were. Anatoly, Dylan, and a number of Torthian's men had slipped away to stand amidst their massed horses, covertly saddling up the animals. Now they leap astride and ride out to harass the flank of incoming mounted knights. Gwyneth, her sons, and Perrin form a battle line. Her axemen are adept at withstanding cavalry charges, known for their aptitude for slaying horses, and sometimes even their riders, in a single brutal axe swing. Perrin is well versed in formation fighting and holding a line, as the sons have well learned over the past months fighting together. When he says hold, they hold. When he says strike, they strike. The Serpentes fill the gaps, fighting on all fronts with Torthian in the thick of things. Felix and Zelda are kind of loose cannons. They fight out of formation, following their own agenda, and like cannons, if pointed in the right direction, they are devastating. Felix, well-versed in heraldry, spots the Karimite lord that serves as Micah's captain of the guard. He is mounted, charging with the knights, behind the front ranks. He points him out to Zelda, and she takes off like a cannonball. Felix takes aim, exhales, shoots. His arrow pierces a gap in the lord's plate, getting in a good hit. The lord tumbles from his horse, and by the time he gains his feet, Zelda is upon him. Her axe rises and falls in a furious rain of blows. He struggles to bring up a shield, staggers. She takes off his shield arm at the elbow. He screams, and one more blow silences him. Meanwhile, Jaspar and King Micah have run out of pleasantries and subtleties. The sounds of fighting are not clearly heard over the music, but even so, Micah sighs. Says he finds this whole thing regrettable. He wishes that Jaspar and he had been able to reach some kind of accord. But now, Jaspar will have to die with the rest of the Serpentes. 2 guards step into the room, weapons drawn. Jaspar is alone, wounded, unarmed, but his legs work, and he took a note of each door and window as King Micah showed him around the dining hall. He bolts across the room, takes a deep breath, perhaps he even says a silent prayer, and leaps through a shuttered window. The impact of breaking through the shutters hurts. The drop from a second-story window would hurt a lot more, but his memory served him well. He falls maybe 8 feet, wincing in pain as he lands on the battlements of the keep's wall. His stomach wound is blazing with pain, but he struggles to his feet, scurries away as fast as he can. He runs past archers shooting below, internally lamenting his own foolhardy idiocy. As he runs past, he shoves an archer off the battlements, and then another. The third one turns to face him, draws a sword, dies, as Olivenko's dagger cuts his throat from behind. Jaspar collapses at Olivenko's feet, gasping for breath, guts searing with pain. Below, the Serpentes and Steelshod have taken the field. The loss of Karim's captain of the guard, the counter-surprise attack, everything is working against the Karimites' morale. Ultimately, the Knights Serpentes are elite troops. King Micah's treachery always relied upon surprise with overwhelming force, and that's been denied to him. The fighting makes its way to the keep, where King Micah's personal guard have taken up positions, and the king has come down to enjoy his victory. Steelshod, including Felix and Zelda, are among the first to enter the hall. King Micah looks at them with shock. Felix has neither patience nor mercy for traitors. He hefts his bow, draws an arrow, and lets it fly. King Micah dies with that same stunned look upon his face, the arrow piercing him through the chest. Thank you for tuning in to Steelshod, a series by Mostly Rights, narrated by Tailforge. You can find every chapter in text format, as well as character sheets, setting information, maps, and rule documents on the Steelshod tabletop system in the link below. If you'd like to support the channel, you can pop down to the description and use the Patreon link for recurring donations. the PayPal.me link for one-time donations, the Teespring link for shirts with the incredibly cool background art by nobody, or use the DriveThruRPG affiliate link the next time you're looking to try a new system. If you'd like to support the author, you can find Steelshod merch on the MostlyRights.com store, or donate to the Mostly Rights Patreon, which are both linked on reddit.com/r/mostlyrights down below.